Hello and welcome back to another in-depth weather video. Today we are talking about Winter Storm Elliott as a potential bomb cyclone moving across the Midwest, dumping feet of snow, bringing blizzard conditions across many states, as well as bringing rain, wind across the entirety of the eastern U.S. as well. This will most likely be the storm of the year, if not already. It's already impacted the Pacific Northwest with over a foot of snow, and this storm has a very similar setup to the Great Blizzard of 1978. So we're going to start off with the Weather Channel page here. At a glance, a major storm is looming prior to Christmas weekend. The heaviest snow will target the Great Lakes, with over a foot possible for some. High winds capable of tree damage and power outages could blast much of the plains, Midwest, and East. Severe travel impact is expected from Wednesday through Friday or Saturday, and this storm has been named Winter Storm Elliott by the Weather Channel. So right now this storm is moving through the Rocky Mountains, but by Wednesday night the storm will take full effect in regions of the northern plains such as Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska. Then Thursday and Friday, it is game time. Thursday, we're going to be seeing most of the strong winds both off the coast of the Carolinas and Virginia, as well as behind the cold front in areas such as Arkansas, Missouri, even up into Illinois, with heavy snowfall from Michigan all the way down to Missouri. Then as we move into Friday, this thing explodes. Strong winds, maybe even up to hurricane force gusts up the East Coast. We're going to be seeing a flash freeze take place in the Ohio River Valley. We're going to see wind chill values well below zero. Some of the temperatures, I think Minneapolis won't get above 4 degrees before Christmas. This is just an insane storm that's going to have insane impacts, especially on the Great Lakes region as this storm bombs out, which means that it's going to drop 24 millibars in 24 hours, aka extreme rapid intensification. This storm is going to get very strong very fast. So here is the Weather Channel's rendition of the snow forecast. You can see that they have their hotspot as Michigan. Michigan is almost on state boundaries. The western portions of the lower peninsula and the northern portion of the UP is going to get at least a foot of snow, if not a 1.5 to 2 feet of snow. So that is one thing to look out for here. We're also going to be looking at maybe some wraparound lake effect snow, which is going to aid to both those snow totals in the western lower peninsula and the northern upper peninsula, but also off of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario in the interior northeast. Now, the biggest part of this storm is going to be the rapid intensification. And you can see here on this graphic by the Weather Channel that low pressure is going to be in Canada, and we're looking at 974 millibars. That's going to create very strong winds both in the Great Lakes as well as off the East Coast. So you can see here in this red, that is where the pressure gradient, so the difference between high pressure and low pressure, is going to be the greatest. So that's where we could be looking at some very intense wind speeds. And speaking of those wind speeds, here is the wind speeds and wind gusts from many major cities across the United States. Look at Boston. 25 to 30 mile an hour sustained winds and 50 to 60 mile an hour gusts. Same thing with Buffalo, 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts and 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts across much of the Midwest. Cleveland, Indianapolis, Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, Des Moines, St. Louis, just to name a few. So this storm is going to have large impacts, not only with the snow, not only with the wind, but also some snow squalls behind it, since we're going to be seeing that frigid air coming in, which is another one of the risks here. Extremely brutal temperatures, especially in the northern plains. Wind chills down to negative 40. Negative 40. After this storm rolls through, we could see 3 to 5 inches of rain in the I-95 corridor, as well as the potential for thunderstorms in that same area. This is just an insane storm, and this is definitely the type that could be a storm of the century. Here is the setup. You can see that cold air plunging down from Canada. That jet stream is all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see that the northeast will stay warm because that jet stream goes almost pretty much vertical up into the northeast, bringing in some of that warmer air. So definitely a crazy setup there as well. But for winter time, there are times where we see this type of setup. So it's not like a unique setup, but it is definitely a unique setup for late December, when we usually see these massive blizzards in the Great Lakes. Usually comes, late January. They have here on the Weather Channel page the so-called Cleveland Super Bomb of late January 1978. So this is more of a middle of winter thing, not a start of winter. You're probably seeing this on the 21st, which is the winter solstice, the first day of astronomical winter. So this is very early in the season to be having one of these snowstorms, and it could be severely impacting holiday travel, especially on Friday and Saturday, as those winds are going to be whipping, as we're going to be seeing flash freezes across the northeast corridor, as we're going to be seeing blizzard conditions on the ground in some states, especially in the Great Lakes, as we're seeing those frigid temperatures outside. I mean, this is just an insane storm at the worst time. So we're going to be getting all those details to you right now. So here are our NWS hazards. We can see that we have expansive hazards here, especially a lot of winter storm watches. Let's actually go over those first, switch things up a little bit. We have winter storm watches in portions of West Virginia, Maryland, New York, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois, Wisconsin, Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, Minnesota, South Dakota, and that's for a different system. Then we have our winter storm warnings in parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, and Nebraska, and our winter weather advisories from Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, and Minnesota, and North Dakota. So let's move on here to our simulated radar. So you can see that currently our low pressure system is up in Montana, Idaho, that region. But we also have another system down here in Florida. These two will eventually start to meld together. As this low pressure system starts to move to the south, you can see that cold air coming in behind it. We have snow in Minneapolis, Des Moines, Davenport, and even getting closer to Madison, Wisconsin. So this is midnight Thursday morning. Now, as we go throughout the day on Thursday, this is right around noontime. Actually, let's go. This is right around 9 a.m. Right? We have heavy snow in the Appalachians. We have a low pressure that forms up north and east of Duluth. We have snow all the way down to Oklahoma, but the heaviest of the snowfall is in this little band here from Madison, Wisconsin, all the way down to southern Kansas. Now, as we go towards noon, you can see that the heavier snow starts to roll into Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Louis. Then, as we move towards, let's go here to midnight Friday. You can see that the snow is already practically done in Chicago. But this low pressure, now at 992 millibars, has a deep cold front here that is going to be pulling in this cold air. And we are going to be seeing blizzard conditions potentially in Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan. And then we have potentially heavy rain and thunderstorms in the New York City area. We're going to be seeing strong winds in the Boston area. We're going to be seeing maybe a little bit of icing in upstate New York. Now, as we move on to noon on Friday, you can see that polar air stretching all the way from Canada all the way down at this point to DC. We still have strong winds coming up behind the storm in portions of Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, where we could be seeing a ground blizzard, blowing snow on the ground. We could also be seeing a hard freeze in the New York City, Boston, Philadelphia areas. And as this storm starts to move out, you can see just the insanity of that low pressure, 972 millibars. I just want to switch here to those temperatures. These are just normal temperature, not real feel, not feels like temperatures. Look at that. Up in Montana, this is midnight Thursday. Negative 30 in the mountains there. And then look at this cold front as it passes through Chicago in the matter of hours here. It's 33. And 9 hours later, you're at 3. A 30-degree drop in 9 hours. At the same time, Minneapolis is at negative 10 degrees. Then you can see here going into Friday morning. This is Friday at midnight, New York City, 54 degrees. By the end of the day, Friday, that is down to 11. 40-degree drop in temperatures. And those are not feels like temperatures, those are just normal temperatures. Here is our wind chill, which is even worse here. Already we have wind chills in the Dakotas of negative 45. And as we see these wind chills moving through, I would not be surprised. There we go, negative 59, negative 60. Then as this cold front moves through, Chicago, wind chills of negative 30. Cleveland, wind chills of negative 25. New York City, wind chills 10 degrees below zero. New York City isn't even getting snow from this event. This is just a massive event that's going to be bringing insane amounts of polar air. Now, let's take a look here at our wind speeds. Our wind speeds are showing here as this storm enters the plains that cold front there is going to be producing 25 to 30 mile an hour winds. And as the storm makes its way through the Great Plains, you can see those 25 knot winds across Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. And we could even be seeing those stronger winds all the way down to Tennessee. Maybe not blizzard conditions on second thought, but I mean, even on that line there, you have moments of 25 miles an hour. Now, that isn't going to be sustained over 3 hours, but some of these areas in the Great Plains, Great Lakes region and the Great Plains, definitely is, especially near Chicago, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Detroit. These areas are going to be in that 25 to 30 knot range for hours, not just 3 hours. We're talking, maybe even close to 12 hours. But that's just one part of the story. We have to look here up to Boston, right before the storm even passes by, 25 knots. Going all the way up, I think that would be like 30 miles an hour, but just off the coast, those wind speeds are at 40 knots. So 40 knot winds off the coast there, that is 45, 50 miles an hour, and you will potentially see some coastal flooding. Long Island as well, getting those 30 to 40 knot wind speeds, and even inland. The Adirondacks seeing those 25 knot wind speeds. So nobody is going to be left out from this storm system, and the entire the eastern half of the country is going to be desolate after the cold and wind and snow and rain, all the impacts. Speaking of that rain, look at the East Coast. This is all from the same system. DC, right around 1.5 inches. Okay, that's cool. Baltimore, 1 3/4 inches, good enough. Philadelphia, 2.5 inches. New York City, almost 3 inches. Boston, about an inch and 3/4. Up near Portland, up to 3 inches. This storm is going to be creating a lot of energy from the Atlantic, and that is just going to be pulling right into this corridor here. So Friday is going to be very rough in this region, and they're not even going to be seeing snow. But let's talk about that snow. You can see the hot spots here, western side of the lower peninsula of Michigan, at least a foot there, if not more. Then you have the northern portion of the UP, at least a foot, if not more. And then in general, we're looking at a 3 to 5 inch spread from North Dakota down to I guess 3 to 5 inches down to Nashville. From Nashville up to Cleveland, and then except for the higher elevations, the interior Northeast as well. So just in general, we're going to be seeing 3 to 6 to 12 inches of snowfall across the entirety of the Great Lakes region, most of the northern plains, and the interior Northeast. I just don't think that we're going to be seeing those big winters outside of the areas that will be seeing lake effect snow. That is the Buffalo area, maybe seeing over 2 feet, portions of western lower peninsula of Michigan, maybe seeing 2 feet, the UP of Michigan, maybe even seeing 3 feet. So those are the main areas that are going to be the real winners here. But in terms of just general snowfall, maybe Minneapolis gets 10 inches, but we're not seeing those massive snow totals. This is just so expansive that it makes it insane. So here is our 50th percentile snow totals, and you can see those same jackpots there. Northern UP, Western LP of Michigan. That's the 50th percentile. 95th percentile, we see a little bit of those jackpots expand, but really when we're looking at it, those blues there, that's at least 6 inches of snowfall. That just barely covers Chicago, Minneapolis. Detroit's actually left out of that. So, again, really not the expanse really outweighs the actual totals on the ground. And we have our ice, which is going to be minimal, mostly in the Appalachian Mountains, at the most a 1/4 of an inch, but I even see that unlikely, maybe closer to 1/10 of an inch in some spots, but fairly minimal icing there. But overall, this storm is going to be insane. And, you know, I might be overhyping this a little bit, but that's only because of the fact that Thursday, Friday, those are the 2 days leading up to Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve is on Saturday. So these are major travel days for those of you who are traveling for the holidays. A lot of schools get off on Friday. A lot of people who go on vacations over winter break leave on Friday. So there's just a lot of different things coming into play, and having a major blizzard across the middle of the country a few days before one of the major holidays and major vacation weeks of the year is just going to put wrenches in a lot of people's plans. So I know this video was long. I've been talking for a while. I need a glass of water, but this is just insane. And I'll flash a few pictures on the screen throughout this video of the blizzard of 1978, which was a massive storm with a very similar setup to this. I think we could be in for a bit of a repeat. But that is all the information that I have for today. If you have any questions, any specific locations you want a specific forecast for, drop a comment on this video. I will be happy to arrange a forecast special made just for you. So that is all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.